Good evening and welcome to the 24th episode of Smart Entrepreneurship Decoded. For the last 23 weeks, we have brought you personalities from diverse subsectors of the startup ecosystem. They have shared their thoughts and insights with us, and we have all been enriched by their experiences. Tonight, I bring you another very distinctive personality, a young man who comes from the same town that I enjoyed in my childhood, Jamshedpur, which I came to know just before the show when I was chatting with him, went to IIT and set up a business in a completely unrelated field, what you would not call traditional technology. But he is a serial entrepreneur and a very successful one at that. He has set up India's largest laundromat chain in 71 cities, 270 plus stores, and is on the cusp of going international. Please welcome Arunabh Sinha. Hi, Arunabh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nalin. Thank you so much for the very warm welcome, and delighted to be connecting with a fellow Jamshedpurian, and looking forward to the next 30 minutes of our conversation.
So, we were comparing notes before the show, and I found your journey quite intriguing. Now, you, from like a typical Jamshedpur boy, you studied hard, went to IIT Mumbai, but then you had a different kind of career. You worked in a few places, and then you did the entrepreneurship stints, bought and sold companies, till you found the niche that I described you as owning now. Talk us through the highlights, high and the low points of this journey. How did it exactly transpire?
Sure. So, like you very rightly said, grew up in Jamshedpur, grew up amongst peers who were, to be very honest, pretty IIT obsessed. And almost when you live in a city like Jamshedpur, where probably academics is the only focus, and many a times IIT is treated as the culmination or pinnacle of all the efforts that you're doing. So obviously, like most of my peers and friends, I was also very focused about getting into IIT. Fortunately, the hard work paid off. Went to IIT. I did my engineering from metallurgical engineering and material science, which initially, to be honest, was very exciting. And my parents were all excited because while we lived in Jamshedpur, we lived in that forsaken corner of Jamshedpur, which was not that part of Tata Steel. So, unlike my Tata colleagues and Tata friends who used to have, by any standards, very good standard of living, we used to live in that part of Jamshedpur, which used to face 24 hours electricity cut, lot of water disruption. And we always used to envy the people who were living in the Tata part of Jamshedpur. So when I went to IIT, and I did not choose metallurgy given the kind of rank that I had. There are a few departments available in IIT Bombay, and metallurgy was one of them. So my parents were more excited than me because they dreamt that now that he's going to metallurgy, he will come back and he will join Tesco, and then we will also move from the godforsaken part of Jamshedpur to the good part of Jamshedpur. But once I was graduating, and obviously Tata Steel was one of the companies that did come on campus, but I decided to take up a consulting job with a company called ZS Associates, which is a Chicago-based company with office in Pune. And I took it up because obviously they were paying better than what the metallurgy companies were offering, but also because at that point in time when we were graduating, consulting was very hot. So I was pretty fortunate there that I got into ZS Associates, worked there for almost a year, and then I joined a not-for-profit consulting firm, which coincidentally at that point in time was advising a company called Vita Coco. And Vita Coco is world's largest packaged coconut water manufacturer. In fact, they went public in the US yesterday itself. And at that point in time, I got a lot of understanding about market entry. So this really caught my fancy, and I decided to start my own market entry consulting firm, which is by the name of Frank Global, which was invested into by a company called Franchise India. And for the next 5 years, I spent a lot of time bringing international brands like Carl's Jr. Burgers, Johnny Rockets, and a lot of other brands into India through the franchising route. And in 2015, I exited Frank Global and I became the North India CEO for a company called Tribo Hotels. For the next 15, 16 months, I worked at Tribo. And what I realized while working in the budget hotel industry was that the biggest challenge that budget hotels in India face, or the guests traveling to budget hotels in India face, is regarding poor quality laundry. So I started looking out for solutions. And during my exposure at Frank Global, I had also seen how the laundry industry had been revolutionized in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia and Indonesia in particular. So there was some learning from there. And then what I saw in front of my eyes meant that this presented a fantastic opportunity and somebody had to take it up. So that's when, towards the end of 2016, I quit Tribo and I started UClean with the idea of creating India's first chain of organized laundry stores, and which could be very quickly scaled through franchising. So enabling, empowering, and equipping passionate entrepreneurs to become franchise partners of UClean. So the last 5 years have been, I would say, I'm very grateful for what has happened in the last 5 years, which has seen us expand to 71 cities of India and have more than 270 franchise partners on board.
So that's an interesting journey and so different from what people think that students who come out of IITs would do as an entrepreneurial stint. But tell me something. There is a common myth that if you are from IIT and you start a company of your own, investors line up at your door. Was that true for you?
No, so I would disagree with that. Uh, in fact, when we started when I decided to go ahead and launch UClean, we'd had paucity of funds, and we knew that in order to make this business successful and scalable, we need to create the proof of concept. And before we can understand the business and scale this from the proof of concept stage. So the next 2.5 months, I would have met almost 60, 70 investors, explained them the idea of UClean, explained them the idea of building the laundromat culture in India. And while a lot of people found it interesting, but nobody was willing to take the bet. So people encouraged me, but people were still not sure whether laundromat culture, given the dhobi culture that already existed in India, whether the laundromat culture would be successful. So there was a change of strategy, and instead of reaching out to investors, I started reaching out to the existing launderers and dry cleaners in Delhi. And if you look at it, the Indian market traditionally has always been a dry cleaning market, because as consumers, we are used to wearing ethnic clothes, gaudy clothes, ornamental clothes, which cannot be laundered or which cannot be washed in water. So you need to dry
Yeah.
clean them or clean them under solvents. But now what has happened is that if you look at the last 20, 25 years, you would realize that a sudden paradigm shift has happened. So, as an example, I have never seen my mom wear anything except a sari. But when you look at my wife, she would have probably worn a sari 5 times in the last 5 years. So, suddenly, Indians are moving from traditional wear to casual wear, which means that your dry cleaning market is dying down, and the same market is being taken up by the laundry market or your regular wash and fold market. So, I tried to convince a lot of dry cleaners about this idea, and most of them were pretty dismissive. Most of them did not like the idea that someone coming from IIT is trying to explain to them how their industry is changing. But fortunately, I was able to find a dry cleaner who had multiple outlets between Delhi and Gurgaon. And he said that he was willing to convert a couple of them into UClean laundry stores. And he would do all the investment, but the operations would have to be taken over by us. And we need to give him a certain minimum guarantee on a per month basis. So I would say, to answer your question again, it was very difficult to find the first investors, despite carrying that IIT tag. And it was almost after almost 100 rejections that we were able to find an investor, an existing dry cleaner, who was willing to invest about 10, 15 lakh rupees to get us started.
So, you have a typical franchise model, right? That's how you have grown and scaled your business. I think we have a minor network issue. We should be back on in a moment.
I can hear you.
So we've been hearing from Arunabh as to how he has grown his business. It is a typical franchise model, and that is one of the ways in which you can scale very fast is making the initial investment and putting your making the initial investment and putting you on. Okay, we had a minor glitch on up, so we are back on. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, yes, you're audible.
So, Arnab, you have grown and scaled by the franchise route, and you probably chose it deliberately to avoid high capex and scale faster than you would have through the organic route. Now, while that has the benefits of scaling faster, low capex, etc., what are the typical pitfalls where franchise model fails? Because you do hear of a lot of failures in the franchise model as well.
Sure. So I think for anyone who is franchising out, one thing that is very important to understand and consider is that franchising is no different from a marriage. Because at the end of the day, however big you might be as a brand, every franchisee partner that is investing in your brand or setting up an outlet of your company is also investing some very hard earned money, potentially his life savings, into that particular outlet. So it is very important to consider this as a matchmaking or a marriage of equals, and never allow yourself to be disillusioned by the fact that you are probably a brand with 500 outlets or maybe 1,000 outlets, and hence you are superior to that but any particular franchisee. So this is something we have been very careful about, and we understand that there will be challenges, obviously. Like every marriage, like every matchmaking, there are always going to be ups and downs. Your relationship might not be the same with every franchise partner, but the one thing that we have always been very particular about, and something that we keep training our teams on, is that the respect should not go from the relationship. So there would be arguments, there would be points with which you might not agree, there would be points with which your franchisee might not agree, and that is absolutely fair and absolutely fine. But there has to be a mutual trust that needs to be there. So I'll give you one very simple example. Today, since we have more than 270 franchise partners, what we do is we use WhatsApp groups to exchange ideas, exchange thoughts, share concerns. So we have more than 270 WhatsApp groups, and I am personally added on each of these WhatsApp groups. So what we do is we make it a point that the entire founding team and the core team is added on every franchisee group, and the franchise owner is also there, because humanly it is not possible for me to
Sure.
interact with all the 270 franchisees. But these franchisees also know that I am added on a group, and in case wherever they feel that there is a certain issue or a certain concern that has not been resolved, or that is pending resolution for a long time, they have the independence and liberty to tag me, and then I take it upon myself to get it resolved. So I think the most important factor is to understand the how complex this relationship is and how important this relationship is, and treat it as such.
So that's an important point. I often like to say that a business can fail, but the relationship should not. And you articulated it very well in different words. So when you look at giving a franchise to somebody, or somebody approaches you for a franchise, it's virtually like an entrepreneur coming to an investor kind of situation. So what do you look for? What are the first things that you look for in the person?
Sure. So I think that has also changed with time. We have also learned a lot. So what we have realized, basis our experience, is that franchisees that are willing to commit time tend to do better than franchisees that are purely looking at it as an investor. So I would like to say that there are two kind of investors that would approach UClean, or that would generally approach a brand for franchising. One is investors that come with an investment mindset, and the
Mhm.
second is investors that come with an operator mindset. So my
Okay.
first question to every prospective partner is that what is the business model that you're looking at? Are you willing to commit time, or are you looking at it purely as a side investment opportunity? And to be very honest, when we were starting off, we were not very choosy, because we are also looking at expansion, and franchising obviously was a quicker way for us to raise capital, as well as increase our speed and time of execution. So we were not very choosy. But now we are very pretty upfront in the sense that we expect our franchise partners to invest time. So I would typically not give out this franchise to someone who is already running a franchisee of a McDonald's or a Haldiram's, which involves 100% time commitment. So when I know that he's already running a business which is very large in size and potentially consumes 100% of his time, I don't think he would be able to do enough justice to UClean. And obviously it is his investment which is at stake, but it is also our brand name at stake. So in case because of his absenteeism a store closes down, it also reflects badly on the name of the brand. So the first thing that we obviously are looking at, apart from the fact that you need to have some necessary capital expenditure and some working capital for the first 3 to 4 months, we are also very very particular about how much time you're willing to commit on a day-to-day basis.
So, although a laundromat seems like a non-technical business, I'm sure there's a lot of technology at play, not just in the machines themselves, but in the way you manage the supply chain and the way you manage the franchisees from a control perspective or a support perspective. So, what kind of technological challenges are there in this kind of business?
Sure. So you're very right. While the machine in itself is a technology, but given what has happened in the last 10, 15 years uh, in the world from a consumer standpoint, so things like application and website and the convenience for a customer to actually place a request without making a phone call has become very, very important. So that is why we have these consumer facing apps, where as a customer you can directly download our app or even go to our website, and from the website itself choose a pickup time, a drop time, choose what services you want, and then the moment you put in your address, the lead automatically gets diverted to the nearest store, and then the nearest store is thereafter is required to execute the entire service. So that part was something that we were very clear about right from the very beginning. But at the back end, what we have done is we have also created a complete software, and this is a software that is hosted on cloud. So sitting in Chandigarh, you can look at what is happening at your store in Patna. And now this software gives you the ability to not only carry out the regular invoicing and billing, but it also gives you the ability to manage your customers. So in the sense, you can keep sending out SMSs, letting them know what is happening with their clothes at a given point in time. It also helps you manage your supply chain. So we have built this tool into the software, which also tells you that on an average how much detergent is being consumed in a given cycle, how much packaging material is being consumed, how much electricity is being consumed, so that you are better aware of how your input costs are working out, and if you need to keep improvising on them. So this is something that we have done purely for the from the perspective of the franchisees. And then what we also do is we keep carrying out mystery audits in order to let the franchisees know how they're faring in terms of quality and turnaround time, and also to let them know how their team members individually are performing.
Do you have to train them on things like how to manage cash and all that stuff?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, given that regardless of how much digital wallets and digital payments have transformed, but I would still say that almost 40% of the payment in our industry today is still done by cash. So we make it a point to help them understand how to manage cash, because any cash that you leave in the drawer for a very long time, there's a high probability of you losing that cash or money being unaccounted for. So we literally train them on everything. We train their team as well as the franchise owners on how to manage day to day business, how to manage cash, and very importantly, how to keep garnering continuous feedback from their consumers.
So, you are an entrepreneur that has created value before chasing valuation. But let's look at the startup industry in India today. For an older person like me, I always get amazed at how people are chasing valuation before creating any value on one side, and on the other side, the investor frenzy to chase something which has no revenue, no break even for the next foreseeable future, but it's a herd mentality. They're chasing it like crazy, whereas entrepreneurs like you who have created value the hard way and are doing this hard tack business where technology is enabling it, but it is not a sexy business as per an investor perspective. Do you sometimes just sit back in the morning, read the newspaper of the next big deal, and wonder, what the hell have I just missed?
Yeah, it does get painful, especially when you read about startups that became unicorn in less than 2 years, startups that became unicorn in less than 3 years. And while they're solving good problems, I would not say that they're not solving good problems. But without naming them, there are startups that have become unicorn without a single dollar worth of revenue, which I strongly feel is a clear-cut case of FOMO on the part of investors. So once you have big names getting into a fundraise, everybody else, whether it is venture capitalists or private equity or even other angel investors, start feeling that they also need to be there. And I'll give you a wonderful case in point. You have these uh, accelerators and you have these firms that help you raise money. And when they send out emails to you, they will send out emails saying that Vijay Shekhar Sharma is investing. We are just closing this round. Last call to participate, which is nothing but trying to push you to FOMO. That if you're not here, then you're missing out on the opportunity to invest in a company where Vijay Shekhar Sharma is also investing, which to me doesn't make sense. While a lot of respect and credit for what Vijay Shekhar Sharma has done, but my investment philosophy could be different. I could not be interested in that industry, or I might not even understand that industry. So you're bang on when you say that a lot of crazy valuations, a lot of crazy investments have happened. A good thing is that it is helping build the overall Indian startup industry. But yeah, sometimes you do feel that what is wrong with the laundry and cleaning industry, which is supposedly almost 80-90 billion dollar in size, but nobody is willing to touch it because it does not have the glamour.
True. Doesn't have the sex appeal. You hear that from investors all the time, or all kinds of reasons for not getting into basics of the consumptive economy: food, clothing, shelter, partly health. Now, of course, with the pandemic, everybody's clambering over to get into the health sector. So you have started and closed companies before. Is this company of yours a solo founder company, or you have co-founders?
So I started it, but I I have three more people. So I started it. Then my wife has been with me right from day zero. She takes care of marketing, and then there are two more colleagues, Aman and Dinesh, who joined me within the first 30 days of my starting UClean. I did not know them from before, but through LinkedIn and through job interviews, I met them, and I found their passion and understanding of the industry pretty infectious. So both of them are actually from the industry. In fact, Dinesh comes from a family of launderers, but I found his energy pretty infectious, and so was the case with Aman. So they are my co-founders who started this business with me. They have equity in the business as well.
So I have had similar experiences with co-founders, etc. What is more difficult, managing a spouse as a co-founder or managing co-founders per se?
Uh, I would say in my case, I've been pretty lucky. So both my co-founders, when I talk about the non-spouse co-founders, they have also been very supportive. They have also been very willing and understanding to share knowledge, to purely focus on growth of UClean, to purely focus on the happiness of franchisees. This is something that we are very particular about. And in the same breath, I would also like to give a lot of credit to my wife, who brings the creative side to the business. So she's our chief marketing officer and a very creative person in general. So she has also been very supportive and very participative in whatever we are doing. And I would
So
say all three
obviously,
of them have been
obviously,
implementing.
you're giving me a very good politically correct answer. I'm sure it works out. That's why you're still co-founders. So let's take it a step further. There's always difficulty whenever people work together, right? And when you also are invested with equity in the business, the stakes are high. Now, when you started out together, it was probably nothing to lose, right? If it works,
Right.
works, doesn't work, doesn't work. But now you are there in 70 plus cities, you have 270 plus franchisees, you're going international, you have a few investors. So, directly or indirectly, you impact maybe, by a rough calculation, you impact maybe 5,000 to 10,000 lives. So in that scenario, when you have a conflict or you have a difference of opinion on strategy or how to go forward, say when you decided to go international, what is that? How do you resolve that? How do you work through that kind of situation with co-founders?
Yeah. So I think it happens not only with
Yeah.
international expansion, but there are multiple times when you have a difference of opinion, whether you should spend more on tech or should spend more on marketing or on operations. And since all the four of us head different verticals, so the conflict that you're talking about does happen quite a lot because everybody wants that their vertical should be the vertical that we should all focus on. uh, we debate it out, we reason it out, uh, and wherever we find whatever is the most logical path, so we do majority voting, and whatever the majority decides, we go ahead with it. In case we are not able to come to a majority, uh, I reserve the veto.
Okay. And in case the marketing vertical loses out, you don't go home to sleep that night, or what do you do?
I go home, but I try to go home as late as possible.
Well, that is a candid admission. So, for a young entrepreneur like you, who's done a few entrepreneurship stints, and this one seems to be working out much better, etc., how do you look at life from here? Do you look at it as something you will do all your life, or do you look at it as something that at some point would like to hand over, exit, partially exit? How do you think at this point of time? Because right now you would still be thinking of this as partial success, right? In a huge
Right.
market, multi-billion dollar market, still dominated by fragmented single owner uh, shops, you have brought some order, some automation, and probably you're catering to a particular market of single people, budget hotels, uh, the people who live alone. So it's still huge way to go. So how do you look at it? uh, Exit out, do something else bigger, another venture, or stay in it, or stay for life? How do entrepreneurs think at this stage?
Sure. So I'm not very sure if my answer would change 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line. But at this point in time, for me, UClean is literally everything. So at this point in time, I'm not thinking of an exit. The only thing the only vision that I started out with when we started 5 years back was that we need to create something that will outlast our lifetime. So I have a daughter, she's 3 years old, and I want that when she's say 30 years old, UClean should be very big. I'm not envisioning whether my daughter should be the CEO or not. That's a decision that she would take over a due course of time. But I want that when she's 30 years old, she should still be able to see a UClean in every nook and corner of India. So for me, exit definitely is not something that I'm looking at this point in time. The only thing that I'm looking at is that I strongly believe that every neighborhood of India can sustainably and profitably have a UClean, and I want to touch every possible neighborhood.
Fantastic. It has been absolutely a pleasure to host you today, Arunabh. Young people across India should listen to you, listen to the voice of reason, get away from all the glamour and all the things they have in their head, and look at businesses that create value before valuation. In a country growing so fast, with the middle class growing so fast, there is so much opportunity just in food, clothing, shelter, and health, that some of the stuff that is being done and put force fed technology to is really unnecessary. I applaud you and I wish you the very best, and I hope you attain all the things that you have set yourself to do. All the best, Arunabh. Thank you very much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nalin. Wonderful being here, and look forward to staying in touch.
Sure. Thanks, Arunabh. All the best.
Thank you. So, thank you so much.